Wow, this last question calling me out. The last question is, do you feel you buy too many books? Absolutely. Is it going to stop me? No. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a tag. So I saw this tag, so long ago, but it looked like fun, so I thought we would do it. So I don't know the original person who did this, but I saw this on Justine from I Should Read That channel. So I'll leave that linked down below if you'd like to check it out, as well as any questions if you'd like to play along in the comments or do this video yourself. Today we're going to be talking about how I buy my books. I am a huge book collector, as I'm sure you could tell by every single month having a ridiculous haul. And it's just a thing that, like, I've accepted at this point. And so this is all about my buying habits, where I get books from, things like that. So let's dive in. So the very first question is, where do you buy your books from? Honestly, all over the place. I buy them, now I'm buying more in person just because stores have opened back up, but a year or so ago it's primarily online. So I was doing a lot of stuff from Bookshop, which is always linked down below. If you'd like to check out any of the books I talk about, you can get them through that one. And it's a way of being like, you can buy from a specific local bookstore or a specific affiliate, like a person, like I have my own bookshop and things like that. But it's a way of, like, you can buy books and get them relatively quickly, but at least some of the money that you're buying from will go to that specific person. So that's what I do. I have there's like a little local bookstore near me that's not really a bookstore anymore. It's basically like this van that drives around. And so when I buy books from Bookshop, I make sure that, like, some percentage of what I'm giving goes there. But then I do, like, the normal things, like I still buy from Amazon if it's the only thing I could find that on and I need it very quickly for whatever reason. I do, Books A Million, which is the closest one to me. I do have a Barnes & Noble relatively close. The one that I go to the most is a used bookstore near me. It's like this book warehouse where, like, the prices are really cheap. And we also sell books there, so it's a way of, like, selling books, like getting rid of your books and then also getting other books that are usually relatively popular. The ones that I go for are usually relatively popular, and that's how I've been able to grow, like, my historical romance section. So I would say primarily Bookshop and my local used bookstore are, like, the two that I go to. If I'm pre-ordering, that changes it depending on where it is. If I can find it from, like, an author website or something like that, I'll go down that route. But I would say primarily Bookshop for online, and then my local used bookstore for in person. Oh, well, I just kind of answered this, but it says, do you ever pre-order books, and if so, do you do this in store or online? I always pre-order online. I've never actually gone to a store to pre-order a book. I've always done it online. I've never done that before, so I'm honestly not even sure how to do that. But I do it primarily, kind of like I was talking about, if an author comes out and says, hey, this is my new book, you can buy it at some of these local bookstores that I like, and you can get a signed book. I'll go to the author's page first to see what kind of places I can find it, and if I can find it as a used bookstore that, like, they support, then I'll get it through that, because that means my money is either going to the author, to the used bookstore, or to both. If it's the signed option, that's awesome. I've had some authors who, like, will sell their books on Etsy, and so I do it that way too. But if I can't, then I'll pre-order from Bookshop or Barnes & Noble. So I'll do it that way. I'll find whatever used bookstore the author recommends that I can, and then if I can't, I'll go through one of the bigger Barnes & Noble, those things. The third one is on average, how many books do you buy a month? I'd say a good number is probably 20 at this point. I am constantly going through books. So, like, when I buy books, I always go through my shelves and get rid of them. So, like, the shelves that you see behind me are not the shelves that I started at the beginning of this year. They are completely different. And so I buy a lot, but I also am reading a lot constantly, and I'm also, like, figuring out what I like, and I'm at this age where like there are certain things that I bought a few years ago that don't work for me anymore, and so I've been getting rid of some of those. Sometimes they just move downstairs, sometimes I unhaul them, it just kind of depends. But I'd say unfortunately 20 is a good number. I'm trying to be better at that. It doesn't always work. Number 4 is, do you use your local library? I do, but I use it primarily for audio and ebook. I have like, my library has both Libby and Overdrive. I use Overdrive primarily. So I'll go through my library for audiobooks like 5 or 6 times a month at least. I'll go physically to the store or to the library if I can't find it. If I don't have a physical copy, if it's a book that someone recommended, if there's just like, if I have an audio version of it and I want a physical version, I usually like having those at the same time. So I do use my library, but I don't physically go to my library as often as I have in the past. I probably need to do it a lot more. I'm always constantly checking out my library and stuff like that, but I use it primarily for audiobooks at this point. Alright, number 4 is, if so, how many books can you or do you borrow at a time? Again, kind of the same as last question. I don't borrow a lot of physical books. It's usually, in like the heyday, I would borrow like 3 at a time. Now, audiobook wise, I usually am somewhere between 4 to 6 books at a time. The library will let me borrow 10 things at a time. So I can do that, but I don't. It's kind of similar as the last answer of physically, not a whole lot, usually 1 at a time, 2 at a time at most. Audio-wise, a bunch. Like, a bunch. The next question is, what is your opinion on library books? That's a really weird, I've never thought of that before. I love libraries. I think they're fantastic. They're great places to go if you just needed to get away. They're great places to go if you're interested in books and you don't have the means to purchase them in whatever format you want to purchase them. I think they're fantastic. I've always loved libraries. They're my favorite thing. They're usually the first thing I find when I move to a new place is, where's the library? When I used to live in Virginia with my roommate when I was working in news, I loved the library there. It was so cool, and I kind of miss it. And the library where we are now it's fine, but it looks like a normal library. And the other one had like a coffee shop, like it was legit. But what I like about my library, and what I like about, I think I've seen this at least in a couple different libraries, is they have a section of books that like they're trying to get rid of, so they sell them very cheaply, $1, $2 at most. I've gotten a couple things there before, and it's their way of getting rid of the stock to put in things that are going to be more widely read, and it's also a way to like raise money for the library. And so I love that. I think that's so cool. It's a new feature that I've been seeing in a few libraries that I think is fantastic. Highly recommend. But yeah, I don't see any negatives to having a library. I've always loved libraries, but I've never thought of that before. How odd. The next question is, how do you feel about charity shops slash secondhand bookstores? Love them. Same answer as like my library question. Most of my books at this point come from secondhand bookstores. A lot of my books, almost all of, let me just say that, all of the books that I unhaul at this point go to my secondhand book warehouse, because you can find books for so cheap. And it also helps like a local business. It helps people who maybe not be able to afford a $15 hardback every single time. And it also gives you the option of like trying things. Like there's been some books that like I've been on the fence about, and I've seen them there for a couple of dollars and been like, well, it's like $2, and so then I'll buy it. And then found some books that I really enjoy because of that. So I love them. I think it's a great way to like continually find books. I am not necessarily a book purist as far as like I need my books to be pristine condition all the time, unless they're special editions for a specific reason. Like some of my signed books, that might be a little bit different. But beyond that, I don't really care if they look like they've been read. I kind of love it more when they look like they've been read. I'm not someone who freaks out about breaking the spine. I don't mind a broken spine. I don't want to break it myself, but I don't mind a broken spine. So like, I think they're great because it's a way of sharing the love, and like I love knowing that the books that maybe I don't love are going to go to homes that somebody else is going to love them way more. And that just like makes me really happy. So love them. The next question is, do you keep your read or TBR pile together or on the same shelf? Not even a little bit. That kind of stresses me out, I'm not gonna lie. Like, separating read from unread, I don't even want to think about that, because like I have my books by genre, and I really like that. I like being able to go over, go, okay, I want a fantasy book, here are all my fantasy books, and going through and finding it that way. I do take them off, and I have a TBR cart that I keep my monthly TBRs on, and I've really enjoyed that. But beyond like the cart itself, which is just by month, I don't have them separated. I like just seeing them all together, so you know. The next one is, do you plan to read all of the books that you own? That's the goal. We'll see if that happens. I think reading tastes and changing reading tastes are so interesting, because there's many books that I have unhauled, even on this channel, like in my unhaul videos, that I haven't read, but I've like, since buying them, have become less interested in them because I've decided not to read that genre or that age group, or, you know, that's a subject I'm not that interested in anymore. And so I think it's really interesting to kind of like see the continual motion of like books coming in, books going out on my shelves, and how my shelves are very reflective of the types of books that I like to read. I kind of got off on a tangent there, but I would love to read all the books I own. Do I see it happening? No, because of that continual rotation of like what I'm interested in, because like clearly I've really gotten into historical romance here lately, not lately, in the last couple of years or so, and that's something I've always enjoyed, but I never like dove as deep as I am now, I think. And so like these shelves here are really reflective of my reading tastes, and like my fantasy books are very reflective of that, and my contemporary books, like it just, that's everything right now is reflective of my tastes, and in a few months those will totally be different as well. So I would like to say yes, I would love to read all the books on my shelves. I don't see that happening. The next question is, what do you do with books that you own that you feel you will never read or felt you did not enjoy? I just get rid of them. Kind of like I said with the last question, I'm constantly like, when I haul new books, I go over, like there's a hole right here because I just got rid of a book so I could make space for a new book. Or I've rearranged my shelves a little bit, or gotten rid of some things that I've been holding on to, or like I enjoyed it one time but like they're okay now. I don't hold on to books I don't like unless the cover is beautiful, and it's only been with one book and I'm looking at my shelves and I don't even see it anymore. So if I don't like them, they usually will instantly get unhauled after I do like a wrap up. And I'm just constantly unhauling them. If I'm not interested in that subject anymore, they get unhauled to make room for things that I will enjoy at the time. So yeah, I unhaul all the time. The next one is, have you ever donated books? Yes. Kind of like I was mentioning a little bit earlier with the used bookstore that I go to, we do kind of sell those books back, but they don't always take everything we want. So the ones that they don't necessarily want, we donate, and they kind of like do something with. There's usually like a crate outside of just like free books for people to take. I think that's really where everything goes. So I'll donate that. I've donated many a book to Goodwill. For me, it's once I've decided that that book needs to be gone, it needs to be gone. If I can get a little bit of money for it, great, awesome, but if not, that's fine, I just need it to go somewhere else. So yes, I donate books all the time. The next one is, have you ever been on a book buying ban? The answer is not really. I've never put myself on a book buying ban, because if I say that I can't buy books, then that's all I'm gonna want to do, and then I'll just end up buying more than I would have like regularly. So it wouldn't work in the way that it's meant to work. However, I have put myself on bans monthly, so like in the month of June or in the month of December, I try not to buy books during those months, because I know that for people who are gifting me things for my birthday and for Christmas, that's a very easy thing for them to get, because I'm going to love books no matter what they are. So I try not to buy things during that month, but then July and January are crazy because I buy all the things that I meant to buy during those months. So I've never put myself on a full-on ban. I've put myself on like certain bans for like a few weeks here and there, just so I'm like, I don't get duplicates or things like that. But putting myself on a full-on ban would not work. I would just spend twice as much money. Wow, this last question calling me out. The last question is, do you feel you buy too many books? Absolutely. Is it going to stop me? No. It's a problem, and I understand that, but like in the last few months I've had to think about my books and my book buying, and I think it's very clear throughout the book community as well, but there is one hobby, which is reading, and one hobby, which is collecting, and I just happen to have both. And so I definitely buy way too many books. Every time I sit down to do a haul, I look at the stack and I'm like, this is ridiculous. How did we get here? But at the same time, they're usually from a used bookstore. They're usually not crazy expensive. They're usually things I'm very excited about and will get to relatively quickly. So yes, I buy too many, but I'm not that upset about it, I guess is my answer. And that's it. I think, yeah, those were all of the questions. So I hope you enjoyed this video, learned a little bit more about my book buying, reading, TBR, whatever the heck this tag was. And I would love to know, out of all the questions here, if you played along, I would love to know all your answers, of course. But if you had to answer one thing, what is your favorite place to go book shopping? Do you have a local used bookstore that you love, online bookstore? I am always looking for fun new independent bookstores that I can support, so if you've got one that's awesome, please let me know. I loved diving deep and learning more about all those bookstores, because I'd rather my money go to the author directly than Jeff Bezos. That's just, yeah. So let me know your favorite. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you would like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so don't forget to check all that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!